Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the Venus Blueprint. And today we are going to go into the North Node utilizing our astrology and manifestation formulas called Astrology in Action. Now, as you know, in astrology, the North Node is considered a destined point. It's about your destination or your destiny. But what does knowing your destiny really solve, right? When we look at astrology, what does knowing your destiny really solve? It helps you to answer, why am I here? And when you know where you are, you have a better understanding of where you're coming from and where you're going. And that is the key to understanding your North Node of Destiny when we're talking about manifestation. Working with your North Node is about a self-assessment. In comparison to where you are coming from and where you're going, where are you on the path to destiny? Self-assessment helps you to understand what are your fears that are keeping you stuck. Are you having a fear of success or fear of failure? Understanding these fears and assessing where you are on the path of destiny is how you can apply your North Node. It's how you can help yourself navigate the unknown. Looking at the map of your North Node readings, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, this is the place where you often get stuck. It is your typical fear of success that keeps you from the North Node. Under that, you'll see this is the boring space, the space where you hold on and grip onto your South Node. And it is the place where you're the most predictable, dull, and just overrun. You just overdo it here. Where your reality is underwhelmed by you. And then to the right is your North Node figurine. This is where you go into the new, into the unfamiliar, and people are admiring you. They are wowed by you, and you are opening doors. In every section, I will link at the top previous North Node videos that I have done for this specific placement. And there are North Node worksheets for you to dive deeper into the formulas that I created for every North Node placement. So if you're ready to get started, let's start with the North Node in the first house or in Aries. North Node in the first house or North Node in Aries. In the past life, you may have been in cycles of karma where you were in relationships that you were codependent of. You possibly were controlled and manipulated in ways where you had to act and be a certain way to please another person. So this is where you're coming from. And your North Node in the first house in Aries is your destination, leading you towards discovering your independence, pioneering, starting new things, and meeting new and refreshing people. This is about having more adventure and edge to life, rather than being safe and harmonious with those you're familiar with. So you're often going to find yourself in the self-assessment of going back and forth between where you came from and where you're going. You have a sense of mastery amongst partnerships, but often it could hold you back into old karmas. So your mastery is this, but it also leaves you very boring and predictable. Being in the space where you're pleasing others is just so predictable of you. And maybe many other people may benefit, but you never really feel like you're getting any place new. This is why you may find yourself in fated situations where closing doors are happening for you in the area of relationships. And these are usually strong signals that are sending you towards your North Node, where the opening doors are really happening. This is learning about going by yourself, taking the loner route, discovering leadership, discovering your true you by taking off the fat of anyone who's holding you back. And if your fear is that you may leave certain people behind, the ones who are really meant to be there will absolutely be there. If you'd like to see all of the formulas that I have for the North Node, including fear of success, fear of failures, and everything like that, you can see that in the worksheets down below. If you have the North Node in Taurus or in the second house, then you may find that you're in a past life cycle of seeing the great in others, appreciating others, but not as much as yourself. This is the energy of investment that you have mastered in a past life. And while you may have also dealt with the fact that people can be very stingy, and these are shadows of your own need to have your own things, to own your own things, and that be safe and accepted. Fears around being valued, you can have severe low self-esteem, which keeps your income at bay in a very stuck place. And you can have fears of senses, fears of being touched, fears of attaching to your reality in a way that you appreciate it. So a lot of the times you detach from reality and you're not able to enjoy the things. Something as simple as like appreciating your toilet and taking care of it and seeing what a great piece of item it is. Things like that are the new ways to go towards your fears and start relating to your reality in a better way. You're very predictable in valuing others. You can really see what others have to offer. You can even find yourself putting others' strengths on a pedestal over your own. And I said specifically strengths, their resources, their talents, and seeing those things as more important than what you have to offer. And until you do that, you're predictable. You're predictably looking like you're mimicking others or using others' power instead of cultivating your own. So walking towards open doors is about seeing your true self-value and repairing the wounds of severe insecurity. You may even find yourself in toxic situations where people do not see the greatness in you. They are not appreciating it. And this is actually a strong signal of fated events happening where your South Node is, wanting to thwart you into that new arena. So you'll find yourself being very boring and unpredictable in the areas of life where you are like in drama and in toxic situations. It might not be very boring to you, actually, but to the situation, it is quite predictable at this point. So you may find yourself in situations that are really predictable. You may find yourself being quite predictable in the areas of toxic situations, drama, and, cheaters and not the baby, all that kind of stuff. All that toxic kinds of things that can happen when you're intertwined with people. And, you could be considered quite boring in these situations as well, even though it may not be very boring for you. The interesting thing about the word boring, though, is that there is a really good place where boring can exist in your life. One where it's actually more peaceful, where there's less drama, there's more silence possibly, and more peace. And that's the type of boring that you're more inclined to find yourself in a sweet bliss when you walk towards the opening doors of your North Node. So your North Node is really wanting you to see the beauty in the peaceful things. As the North Node in the second house in Taurus, it's connected to Earth and it's connected to Mother Nature, into this inner stillness that you find that you could also live more peacefully in. And so your North Node is dealing with a new type of boring, I would say, when it comes to this very specific placement. You'll find yourself in places where you're constantly in a fear of success, right? When things get too peaceful for you, maybe you'll have a trigger that wants to send you back into the spiral of all of these, concepts and conspiracies. But the truth is that all of that is where the old you doesn't need anymore. In a past life, you learned how to master over dark arts, maybe people throwing a lot of dark arts at you, you having to defend yourself spiritually and emotionally, and you've developed this survival mode where you're always looking for, that next person who's going to come at you. So in living in that South Node, you are predictable and people are easy to manipulate you because they know how you'll react. They know you're in that survival mode. Whereas in your North Node, where doors open for you, it's a lot more peaceful, and you can actually meet people who are more peaceful. You can live a more peaceful life, and it actually is the truth of luxury for this placement. If you'd like to see all of the formulas for fear of success, fear of failure for the North Node in Taurus, check the worksheets down below. If you have the North Node in Gemini or the third house, you're here to learn different ways of speaking language, accents. And it's all about the intricacies of communication for you that help you to open doors. However, you do have a past life of being in the space where you're around a lot of thinkers, a lot of philosophers, and people who have their takes on life. And in this life, and your journey with that has a lot to do with discerning old biases that become very concrete in this placement. People who can have dogmatic beliefs, and actually you'll find yourself just spinning in a circle of constant debates over, the beginning and origins of man. And so can often find yourself constantly reacting to the world from these philosophies. Either you are fighting people who have these dogmatic philosophies, or you yourself are creating even more philosophies that you think are the right way of approaching the world, but they're still just in defense of what you see around you. And so you're forgetting that the world is still in the space of the unknown. And what is the benefit of communication? You're actually able to take something that no one would know about and everyone would, right? And that's the real desire, I think, of philosophers, is that a lot of people would hear them. And so you're developing the communication that preserves, what is important about these religious beliefs and backgrounds, kind of slimming off the parts that don't matter anymore and communicating them in your own way. And this is a true writer, a literary interpreter, someone who is spending a lot of time with their hands, with a pen, typing, and getting their ideas translated into more practical and understanding ways and stylistic ways that people can receive them. It's a very airy element here for the North Node versus the fiery element of the South Node. So it is still the space of thinking, but it's not these like outbursts of reactions as much. You may find yourself at first utilizing your outbursts to get you, propelling you out of your South Node. And then when you finally realize you don't have to have those outbursts, the true you and the real message that comes from inside of you is now has a clear path to be, because it's no longer about fighting the past or fighting old dogmatic beliefs. It's truly about this blank page that you get to write on. If you have the North Node in the fourth house or the North Node in Cancer, then you are here to discover the success of family life and how much this helps you to appreciate life from a different perspective. You're coming from a past life of focusing on your public image, and your South Node is often pulling you in karmic battles where you're propelled out into the public for reasons that either you're pushing or that people need to draw you out for whatever drama they want to conjure up at that time. This can often lead you in places where you're reacting to those things, wanting to protect your reputation, and it actually is where you're more boring and predictable at this level. What people really want from you and see in you is the nurturer. And while this is a very interesting placement, because it's not the placement where ambitious people would want to have, it actually is a very fulfilling placement, because as you are propelled into your North Node, you're actually able to see the beauty and the fruits of yourself. You're able to see how amazing and revering you are when you just nurture yourself. And it has less to do about this constructed image and more about just your state of being and your presence and your femininity and how sensual you are, and how everyone kind of wants to touch you and hug you and rub up on you with the North Node in Cancer. And that's really where you're going. So it's really hard to let go here, I think, in this placement of that fame, of wanting the fame in the way that you want it. So that part is actually still there for you. However, you don't have to chase it. It's more about how you are being nurtured within yourself, within your home, within your family, and how much that radiates off of you when you go towards those open doors. So if you'd like to know more about the fear of success, fear of failure with this placement, the North Node in Cancer or in the 4th house, please check the worksheets down below. If you have the North Node in the 5th house or in Leo, you may find yourself in karmic cycles where you're trying to get out of being like everybody else. And this becomes a very frustrating situation because you don't want to let go of everybody else, but you simply can't just be like everybody else. It's not that they're beneath you, but there's something about what you want to do and shine at that others just can't seem to grasp. They can't seem to see, and it's only as if you see it. So you may find yourself being quite predictable when it comes to the groups that you're a part of. They're quite predictable, and they could even be seen as mediocrity when it compared to what it is that you envision for yourself. And so because you're keeping all of these really bright light visions quiet so that you can adjust and hold on to the group, you continue to be quite predictable, and people can measure you in ways that you know are beneath you, but you feel like there's nothing you can do. And you find yourself stuck in spaces where you're fearful of going at it alone, at being the center of attention. You could also be very fearful of being too prideful, of being too egotistical, and that being the things that keep you back and hold you back. You're here to discover how attractive your character is and how that character is a character amongst other characters, which gives you this right and this freedom to finally venture into the new you, the pioneering spirit of center stage. And so in trusting your character to be continuously defined, it helps you because you can also see other people as their characters, and you're just waiting for them to figure that out. But in the meantime, you're going to shine in your best, storylines and do what you came here to do, regardless of other people are recognizing their own light. In a past life with the North Node in the 5th house or in Leo, you learned that if you go after other people and help them up and bring them up, that you would get the attention. And so in this life, you're learning that if you actually just choose to take the attention first, to stand center stage and be the one that everyone looks at, right? That the group will appear, that the support will appear. And this time, it may be even support that is better than you, that can do things better than you. You might have the greatest support, the excellence of support systems when you choose to go into the new and unfamiliar and open doors with your North Node in the 5th house or in Leo. So if you would like to see the breakdowns of fear of failure and success when it comes to the North Node placement, so you can really dig into assessing where are you on that path between your relation to your groups of people and the person that you are, right? And the character that you're bringing to it. Where are you on that path? This can help you if you go into the North Node worksheets. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys. If you have the North Node in Virgo or in the 6th house, this means that you are in this fearful cycle of going towards the unknown of true success when it comes to experiencing your day-to-day monotonous routines. You may enjoy a past life that is filled with fantasy. You could get lost in the clandestine affairs of others, the way others' stories seem to be scandalous and turn and bend into these real interesting, dramatic, and anticlimactic outcomes. You could find yourself looking for the ideal of things and stretching it too far to the point where you're enabling bad behavior of yourself or others. And you can find yourself lost in your own fantasies, not really being grounded in the reality of what can actually get you to true success. In your North Node in Virgo or in the sixth house is all about helping you to face your fear of the everyday. You're learning that it is the way that we position our day-to-day actions and routines and priorities that give us a chance to actually live out our fantasies. So we're no longer just the spectator of it, but we are truly living in it. We are the dream girl, the dream guy, living in a dream world and actually being able to reach out and feel it. And only until you're ready to reach out and feel it will you stay in this predictable cycle of just being somebody who daydreams and fantasizes and has a lot of good ideas on how things can happen, but never can actually put them on your feet. You might appear to be very predictable because you are the one that's trying to get the results without any of the doing or any of the day-to-day practical application of it. And until you realize that it is the day-to-day practical application of it that is the exquisiteness of the dream life, you'll always stay predictable to everyone else, and they might kind of put you under their foot sometimes because they don't really feel like you can do much for them. So you wow people when you finally open doors in your sixth house or in Virgo where the North Node is. You wow people when you take that time to craft out what a perfect day for you is and consistently show up for it. And you begin to harvest a harvest like never before. One where it can almost seem like everything is falling in line for you. And it wasn't out of some sort of miracle or fantasy. It wasn't out of some sort of magic. It was out of you seeing how you can mold your life to that very dream that you were once just sitting around hoping that it would one become. So if you have the North Node in Pisces or in the sixth house, you have maybe spent a past life of going towards your dreams and knowing that the way to get there would show up. But sometimes that way has become somebody else's way, somebody else's control mechanism and systems of standards. And so you're very bored with this. And when you find yourself to be, you may be propelled to go in the different direction of going towards your routines and seeing what magic happens outside of you just being normal. If you would like to go into the worksheet formulas for this placement, they actually address the fear of success and the fear of failures, which is basically a way to seesaw back and forth and see where are you truly on this axis of your North Node and South Node. If you have the North Node in the seventh house or Libra, you may feel at first that this placement is the most wicked placement because it's basically about forfeiting everything you know about yourself and going towards putting somebody else first. So you're the partner in it. You're the first lady to the president, but that's just about it. And that doesn't always feel very good on someone who has a south nodal Aries or first house position, because we're all really born to put ourselves first. And in the draconic chart, it's actually to put ourselves first at 0 degrees Aries. So what happens when the North Node is not in its placement to put itself first? It has incredible fears severe fears around dealing with relationships and can constantly self-sabotage itself by looking to either, fix the relationship or see what's wrong with the relationship, and never just allowing a relationship to breathe and to experience it in its contrast and chemical pairings or not. Meaning you never give them a true try, and you may be very predictable in sticking to just knowing what you know, going the path that you know is the right path to go, because knowing does feel a whole lot better than not knowing, especially with this placement. So the thing that might propel you is realizing that you're so predictably always doing it yourself that maybe no one wants to play with you, no one wants to go with you, no one wants to combine themselves with you, because you don't really have space for others. And until you can connect to the part of you that at least wants to protect others, it may be an easy detachment to stay alone and be a lone wolf, which is quite predictable in this placement. So the very thing that could compel you out of this is the desire to not be predictable anymore, to not let people think that they know who you are. And you actually find yourself by this dance between, going towards other people and seeing their needs, and then redefining who you are. Are you a person that meets this person's needs or not? It may not be as simple as a yes or no, depending on the person or the circumstance. You're now somebody who's willing to play with the flowers in their garden rather than just walk by the flowers every day. And so people are now flowers. And you also really start to find the beauty in the boring parts of your own self, which make you want to start coming together with your own artistry to some degree, or appreciation of art, or at least fashionable expressions. Because now, where things were all about you, you're now interested in the parts that aren't all about you, that are about other people's ideas and aesthetics, and you're actually wanting to entertain them all or try them out in different variations and arrangements of your own liking. And this is very similar to the North Node in Venus placements, because you're learning how to make something out of the boringness, right? Where things aren't so vivid and exciting, where things are more peaceful, and out of peace grows these most beautiful things. But sometimes we don't realize that when we're so tied to the drama of a fight or a conflict or something like that. So this energy is pulling you towards the new and unfamiliar, where you are actually interested in other people, interested in having them around you, interested in experiencing them and their differences towards you. And you wow others with this because you seem to have heightened your wealth in this action. This not only makes you automatically more charming without having to do anything, but also just very much so more attractive than they saw you before as the loner. This also could be something that may compel you finally towards fated events where you can open doors in your life. So if you have the North Node in the 7th house or in Libra, you may have been used to going towards yourself and knowing that others will have to follow, right? But you may have found this overdone, and sometimes the people that are following you, they're just yes ma'ams and yes peoples and yesums. And you're kind of fearful of becoming that, in which you go and follow other people, but you're never truly completely, somebody else's sidekick or anything like that. You are an individual person helping another person find their individuality. You're not anybody's shadow or sidekick. And when you're able to see that, you can now freely go towards the person and know that you will show up for you. It's quite twisted, but it's really cool when you finally get to see the artful way of balancing this act. If you'd like to see more formulas for this placement, check down below in the worksheets. Do you have the North Node in Scorpio or in the 8th house? Then this is about understanding that money is very, very important. But does money always equate to power? Not necessarily. And you're here to understand this in the most unique way by sometimes losing all of your money. The North Node in the 8th house or in Scorpio is discovering that they always were a millionaire. And in a past life, you may have had to really work hard for your money or work hard for your true value for sure. And you may often find yourself in cycles where you forgot that you're already a millionaire. And when you go into situations that are, let's just say, beneath you, you may succumb to them becoming as the situation, becoming the mold on the walls of other people. And instead of really just being who you are, which is someone who can generate their own power and their own light. So this placement is kind of like putting the millionaire into a situation where they have no money, so that you can see that the true money is you attracting material money to it. Because putting a millionaire in a situation where they just have to apply and reapply their talents, reapply their knowing to something that seems to be of nothing and regrow it again, is the true truth behind money and power. And so now you're really able to see which is before the other. With this placement, you're able to remember that the money is not what is put on the pedestal, but the thing that is conjuring it, the thing that is attracting it, the thing that is generating it. And so now your relationship with money is no longer going towards the money, but going towards your power. Because you're very predictable in going towards the money, and you may seem to be like a used car salesman, or like you may cheapen yourself in the sense of going towards the money in these cycles now, because it's very predictable for you to do that. And in the past life, you may learn that, in going towards the money, you will find power. People finally respect you when you finally get all the money. So in the past life, you know that. But in this life, if you go towards it, it's kind of like you're too money hungry. And once you learn to balance that money hungry, you start to realize I don't even need to go towards it, because what is more fulfilling is the way and the path that I'm choosing in order to fulfill it. So it's like, if you know that no matter what you do, you would make back that $1 million, then what would you do? And it is that very thing that is the more generating fulfillment of you, which is, where do I want to direct my power and generate it some more and have these outcomes? So now in this life, you're learning, okay, well, now if I go towards the power, the money will come. If you'd like to go deeper into this with your success, fear of success, failure, fear of failure formulas, then check the worksheets down below. If you have the North Node in Sagittarius or in the 9th house, then you may have a past life of connecting to your thoughts, of being an intellect, and you may have overabundantly utilized your thoughts and opinions to catapult you into mastery. But in this path, in this life, you are here to unlock the fear and the karmic cycles of letting your mind run things. So the mind is this beautiful thing that sometimes can take over. And it has this ability to convince us that our thoughts are the true thing to listen to. And so the South Node in this area in Gemini is asking for you to let go of having something to say right away. Let go of your own opinions on things so that you can have the true gift of seeing beyond your own mind. it's not necessarily just to see beyond what you know. Knowing becomes a very interesting thing here, because the true knowing is that your mind isn't in control, but it is trying to be. And this is a mental game here with the karmic cycle of the fear of the unknown, because you may have these fears with the North Node in ninth house or in Sagittarius, where you're fearful that you might be seen as like stupid, or the other extreme, like as a know-it-all. You're fearful of kind of becoming this person who might be narrow-minded in their biases. And so this is acting out the fear to not go towards that North Node. This is the fear of wanting to stay with where your mind would say is the better place to be, which often in this situation is you don't make a choice, and it's kind of like very wafty. It's this overall escapism of going towards the unknown and staying in the comfort zone of what you already know, but your mind actually does not know everything. So here you become very predictable, okay? You become very predictable because you're over communicative, you're scatterbrained, you're doing too much, like you're having too many things that you have to do. You're not actually comprehensive in either what you're saying or how you're saying it. And it's not because of a language barrier, which you may tend to be the very problem. So you're very predictable. People know that you can talk their ears off. They know that you can be overly communicative. They know what it is that you have to say because maybe you have said it many times. And so the real thing that you're doing is letting go of your own thoughts, of letting go of your mind, thinking that it is in control, because then you start to create this relationship with your mind where you see the thoughts and you start to discern your own thoughts. You start to discern your own opinionated ways of thinking. And this is when a true new version of you shows up that opens doors and basically wows others with your newfound independence from your mind. And you're able to be somebody who can travel to different places and be able to connect to people from different cultures, because your mind is no longer in control. And your fears of being biased or not knowing something is no longer running you, and you're actually able to enter into this new version of you, this new figurine heroine version of you that transcends language and speaks to the human overall experience, the experience that we all here are to experience, which is the experience of living life and also confronting that life will one day be over. And so there's this new concept here, I think, that buds in this placement where we're all in it together, right? Life and death, because this area is coming right after, the 8th house. So we are all in it together. We all are trying to find the philosophies that make us remember that very thing. And that this is why humanity and cultures help us to get through the darkness and to find unity or camaraderie, whether in traditions, folklore, stories, and testimonies. So if you want to wow others, you can walk towards your North Node in Sagittarius. And I have worksheets down below that go through the fear of success and the fears of failure according to your North Node in Sagittarius or in the 9th house. If you have the North Node in Capricorn or in the 10th house, you may find yourself dealing with the fears and these karmic cycles of being fearful of being seen and being like, this could be like camera shy or like fear of public speaking. It could have certain examples of that you're just so used to hiding in your comfort zones, right? And so you're stuck basically, right? Because this is what the North Node is. It's showing us where we get stuck. And sometimes subconsciously we're doing that so we don't advance forward because the unknown is just way too scary. And so you may find yourself in these spaces where you're a lot more predictable, and that's coming from your South Node. So your South Node is either in Cancer or the fourth house, right? And so becomes a version of you that clings on to things, that is emotionally clingy to things. And it can actually be kind of weird as well. And you'll know it because there'll be signs of it that show up to you where people cling on to you for reasons that you don't get. And it can feel kind of weird to you. That's actually your own South Nodal energy. You also may find yourself in the South Nodal energy wanting clinging attachments, but people are detaching from you. This is actually the South Node propelling you towards the North Node if you are willing to give it a try. But until you are propelled, you may find yourself being very predictable to people, where they find you being a little overprotective of yourself and like wanting too many comforts more than your actual growth, and almost just not having enough purpose in life. Because while we think that purpose is something that is public, it actually starts with how well we connect to, how well we have really good attachments to people. Why? Because if you have a clingy, toxic attachment to somebody, this means you aren't focused on your purpose. You are stuck in an attachment. And that emotional attachment that is too clingy is actually the thing that is keeping you comfortable, but it's also the obstacle in the way of you going towards your unknown and your true success in life. So you become very predictable, being overprotective and being very clingy and expecting people to attach to you and to over care, right? And sometimes this creates reciprocity issues. So you're propelled into your North Node, where you actually are called to be in a little bit more of this isolated state where you're not always around other people, and you're learning how to be on your own concretely, because it's there where you can actually call the shots. And this is when you start to wow others. You wow others with your newfound ability to create your own policies, to be ambitious, to have ambition in general, and to go for the top of whatever it is that you are set out to do. You wow others when you stop clinging on to people and you start using that time where you're not clinging on to people to actually discover your own leadership. So if you would like to understand more about your North Node in the 10th house or in Capricorn, well, just go ahead and check the worksheets down below, where we go through the formulas of the fear of success and fear of failure, so you can be even more acquainted with your North Node. You could see where it is that you're getting stuck and be able to unstick yourself through these formulas. If you have the North Node in Aquarius or in the 11th house, then you may find yourself in some karmic situations where you're stuck and fearful of going towards the unknown, because you have these underlying fears of being in social settings, of not really knowing what to do, of feeling like everything is coming at you, of feeling like your inner world is kind of exposed to others' judgments, and kind of being lost in the sense of hierarchical status. It's just too overwhelming. And you may find yourself wanting to go back into the spaces of your past life, South Nodal places, right? That is connected to the themes of Leo, which have to do with a lot of self-centeredness. This placement can actually find itself being in isolation, and it's not as healthy, right? Whereas the previous one, isolation helps to grow you. In this one, isolation actually helps you keep digging this big bubble of your own ego and what you think is right for you. And you're never quite able to go into the crowd and mingle with others and be normal, if for the lack of a better word. And I know that the North Node in Aquarius in the 11th house is a more strange space. So it's not like, so this idea of being normal is actually embracing what makes you eccentric, but not being afraid to be around other people. That's really what the normal is. So this is a space where, you could find yourself in the South Nodal spaces where people find you predictively self-oriented, a little more self-centered, a little like focused on drama and your own drama and flirtations. And while it could be fun, like it could be fun at first to talk about your dates, but after a while, your friends are growing up and people are thinking about marriage, and you're still kind of lost in the kind of kid-like version of it. And instead of holding on to your inner child, it's actually like arrested development. I know I've talked about that in another placement too, but it's kind of like that, where it's like you're not wanting to grow up and not wanting to see yourself sprout and be able to socialize, because socialization really is you being able to share yourself with others and sprout like a flower in the garden of other flowers. So until you propel yourself out of this, you're quite predictable in kind of looking for people to stroke your ego. And instead of it being like you really are sad or you're really unsure and you're needing to be tested to grow, instead of it being about you being tested to grow, you might really just find you need people to give you compliments. And that actually might have helped at first because you didn't feel good, but now it's just overdone. It's like once people have complimented you enough, like when are you ready to advance? How does that propel you? And some people might think, oh, encouraging somebody would really help them. But with this placement, it kind of leaves you fixed and stuck. And so you may find yourself being propelled, out of these placements where, you may not be able to have as much joy and fun. And it could be kind of sad at first because it's like, well, is my life just going to be doomed and depressed? And as soon as something great happens, something depressing happens? No, the thing that you're really needing to understand about the seesaw between your South Node and North Node is that when something great happens and you celebrate, that's when you need to buckle down and get stronger. You need to go out and get even better and test yourself, versus just enjoying the fruits of the celebration and then letting everything die down. You've got to find a way to create sustainability through strengthening yourself in whatever field you are. This creates a level of social strength and social intelligence. And also it will help you expand beyond yourself because you are putting more pressure on yourself. You start to see beyond yourself and want to become more philanthropic. And this is when you truly wow others, when you have a vision that is really about helping other people, helping everyone. Of course, it helps you, but it helps everyone because it helped you. What helps you helps everyone. And it's not just a helping you situation. When you wow others, it's an idea that maybe you used on yourself that so many other people could benefit from. So if you'd like to understand even more about this placement in the North Node in Aquarius or the 11th house, and looking at your fears of failures and fears of success, because they bounce back and forth between the South Node and North Node, check the worksheets down below. If you have the North Node in Pisces or the 12th house, This is a fear of the unknown, ultimately, because the 12th house in Pisces is the very idea of the unknown. It's the abyss, it's the bottomless well, the fear that we are micros in a macro world. And so you can actually find yourself in normal, predictable karmic cycles where you actually really stick to what you know and do. Get a job, do what people tell you to do, get a nice practical job. And this seems to help you to feel like you've got some sort of grasp on life. But the issue is that you may have a deep sense of deprivation and hunger, and one might even say thirst, right? Because your north node is in a water element that never really gets quenched. This placement also can be a workaholic, like overworking and kind of like really losing a sense of being taken care of. And while the rest of the world like can travel and go to the spa, for some reason you might be in this predictable cycle where your pride even is holding on to the fact that you just work more than everybody else. And while that actually might mean something, while it might actually get you far, there's going to come a point where you have to look up and see that memories are happening and you don't want to miss those. Life is happening and you want to immerse yourself in it rather than just constantly on the grind and on the hustle, because everything is so safe. Everything is so predictable. You get up, you brush your teeth, shower and shave, some would say, and then you go to work, you do that, you come home, you take care of the kids, and you're kind of lost in the monotony of it all. These are placements that can actually already quite have been successful, or at least you're a little bit better than most of your peers. But you've never actually maybe explored the fact that everything that you think you know could dissolve, and you could walk into a new territory, a new sense of adventure. So this placement actually asks for you to let go of normal and embrace the strange, embrace the demiurge, embrace the stranger things of life, allowing you to now see that there is something else that your humanity is really desiring to experience. You may even allow yourself to try out more spookier things or entertain ideas, philosophies, and beliefs that aren't your own, just for the sake of the traveling into other people's worlds and fantasies. This is a placement that actually can invite more scandal into their life in a way that isn't going to overwhelm or completely sabotage it, but allows you to kind of let loose and not be so prudish all the time. So that is one of the things that actually is the most predictable about you, is that with that south nodal placement, you may be kind of prudish. You might be the kind of person that is constantly like complaining about others and their downfalls. Or if not that extreme, you will at least kind of fight this inner struggle to kind of, look at others' mediocrity and not realizing that even though you may actually be successful, there's still a level of mediocrity that you yourself are also trying to break out of. Now, maybe you're not as bad as some of the people that you're around. And look, you might actually have a point. They might actually be a hot mess, right? And very mediocre. But there's still something even about your own life and how you set it up where it might just be a little too safe. And encountering strange people or even a homeless person on the street might actually widen and bring more depth to your life, helping you to see, how the human experience is wanting to experience things from different angles and different perspectives. You'll have a whole new grasp on humanity and you unstick yourself. by wowing others and showing them your own fantasy, your own sense of service and duty to those who really do need help. And you can even be really good at bringing more magic into others' life through role playing or unlocking psychic abilities or bringing more of that mystery into your everyday mundane life. This could actually add a lot more fun, even in your relationships, as this placement can sometimes, have dry relationships as a sign of your stuckedness, and how just adding more mystery and fun and playfulness brings more grace back to your relationships and helps you to kind of also forgive others for their trespasses, for the things that they aren't perfect at, really recognizing that we all are. And you may even come to this place where now that everyone is forgiven, like you're a little bored, which allows for you to unlock actually even more fantastical ideas that are creative and abundant and can really be poetic and help humanity. So if you'd like to know more about your fears of failure and your fear of success with the North Node in Pisces or the 12th house, check the formula sheets down below. Now, the South Node is telling us the story of what you've come from and what you're really familiar with, okay? What you absolutely understand and have grown in wisdom about, right? And then the North Node is connected to the soul's unknown journey, the part that you are not familiar with, a new territory for you to destine towards. So this idea of destiny is that it's also part of a destination that the soul is on when we see it in this way. And so understanding the full story of where you're going really helps you to understand the part that you play when it comes to dancing with fate. So let's make some pure defined definitions when we're looking at the South Node versus the North Node. Words associated with your South Node is going to be words of mastery, something you've mastered, karmic gifts, familiar territory, past life achievements. Now, words associated with your North Node are going to be words like new, unknown, familiar, unmastered, new karmic rewards, and life purpose. Now we are about to go into the house placements for your North Node. We will call your North Node the destination point, and your South Node will be where you are coming from. While working with your North Node in the houses, I want you to start assessing yourself. Depending on which node you're using, will be about your fears of success or your fears of failure. Now, this may change from time to time. So if you are here right now, or if you're coming back to this video, before you go any further, I'd like for you to ask yourself and take a deep moment of reflection to ask yourself, am I fearing failure or am I fearing success? You'll see here in the worksheets that the South Node and the North Node will help us to assess our fears when we're working with our purpose and our destiny. And this is a key ingredient in understanding how to work and manifest with your North Node, because the nodes are actually connected to the moon, and the moon is our more emotional state. By assessing and understanding where your fears lie, you can pinpoint with precision exactly what part of the nodal structure are you to focus on. The North Node and the South Node being connected to the moon shows us that our emotional state is quite often run by fear. And this is the key to manifestation in general, is to heal your fears so that you can truly walk in your purpose when manifesting with the North Node.